Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be looking at Proverbs chapter 8. In our last chapter, in Proverbs 7, we saw the adulteress calling in the streets, seeking to tempt the wayward, foolish person. In chapter 8, we're going to see somebody calling in the street, but now it's going to be Lady Wisdom. And remember that the word wisdom in Hebrew happens to be feminine. All Hebrew words are either masculine, all Hebrew nouns are either masculine or feminine. The Hebrew word for wisdom happens to be feminine. And so our writer plays on that. And there's a contrast here with chapter 7. Jump in. Does not wisdom call and understanding lift up her voice? So, notice wisdom and understanding, those are synonyms. Wisdom is calling, lifting up her voice on the top of the heights beside the way where the paths meet. She takes her stand beside the gates of the opening to the city. Now, the gates, remember, it wasn't just the place where you got into the city, but it's also sort of the town square. In times of war, it almost provided a little bit of a maze where those breaking through the gates would have to follow this maze to get into the actual city. But when there was no fighting going on, there were booths set up and people would be selling and buying and meeting. It was a public place. So beside the gates at the opening to the city, at the entrance of the doors, she cries out. She comes to the public market square and she says, "To you, O men, I call." Remember, the other woman was calling to the men too. "To you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men." So wisdom is seen calling, and wisdom's audience, just like the audience of the adulterous woman was to men, this is to you, O men, I call, my voice is to the sons of men. Um, the term, by the way, Eshim, it's not Adam, the term for just mankind. This is masculine, which that doesn't mean that women can't call out to women as too. Wisdom can't call out to women as too. But the picture here is in contrast to the previous chapter. So I'm calling out to you, O men, Ishim, and to the Beni Adam. Now here is a different term for men. O men, that's Ishim, from Ish is the word for masculine. Beni Adam, Adam is man, but can be sort of mankind. So sons of men is more generic. Now we see wisdom's appeal. Oh, naive ones. Remember that the former lady had been calling to naive ones. So, oh, naive ones, understand prudence. Oh, fools, understand wisdom. If you're foolish, if you're a naive, don't stay that way. That's the point. Come and hear wisdom, and maybe you can rise above that category. Listen, for I will speak noble things, and the opening of my lips will reveal right things, for my mouth will utter truth, and wickedness is an abomination to my lips. And all the utterances of my mouth are in righteousness. There's nothing crooked or perverted in them. Notice that wisdom isn't just wise, wisdom isn't just smart. Wisdom is also good. God's wisdom is good. And that's the point. There's nothing crooked. There's nothing, it's all righteous. They are all straightforward to him who understands and right to those who find knowledge. So straightforward, right, there's an ethical quality to the wisdom of the Proverbs. Take my instruction, and not silver, and knowledge rather than choicest gold. Notice the value of wisdom. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all desirable things cannot compare with her. So we're seeing wisdom's value. Next, I, wisdom, dwell with the prudence. So here's wisdom actually. Now we're not talking just about wisdom, but wisdom is speaking. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and I find knowledge and discretion. The fear of the Lord. Remember how the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom back in Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil. So notice, it involves putting certain things aside. To hate evil, pride and arrogance, and the evil way. Those things are not the way of wisdom. Those things are not the way of good. You see, in the Bible, pride is not a good thing. That's not to say you can't feel pride about having done a good job or something like that. But if you're lifted up with pride, you're giving yourself honor instead of giving God honor. So pride, another way of saying pride is arrogance. They sort of go hand in hand. And notice, so we started with evil and we ended with the evil way. And not only that, and the perverted mouth I hate. By contrast, counsel is mine. This is still wisdom speaking and sound wisdom. I am understanding. Power is mine. So wisdom speaks. Don't go that wrong way, the way that God hates, but go the way of wisdom. By me, wisdom still speaking, by me kings reign and rulers decree justice. So they reign, they decree justice. By me princes rule and nobles, all who judge rightly. Now, why is this mentioned? Kings, rulers, princes, nobles. Why is that mentioned? It's because they exercise great authority. They exercise great influence. But not only that, remember our overall idea. He's going to be talking about the issue of adultery. And there was a famous king, the father of Solomon, actually the father and mother of Solomon, David and Bathsheba, who had engaged in adultery. And this is wisdom saying, notice Solomon is writing, but he's speaking through wisdom. Wisdom is saying, don't you go and do likewise. So notice these things, kings, rulers, princes, nobles, they impact others. But also there was a family connection. I love those who love me. Now this is wisdom speaking. Let me say God says the same thing. I love those who love me, and those who diligently seek me will find me. You can say that about wisdom. You can say that about God. You can say that about Jesus, who is the second person of what we call the triune God. Uh, he continues, verse 18, riches and honor are with me, enduring wealth and righteousness. So we have riches, honor, enduring wealth, but notice the moral quality, righteousness. They are found in wisdom. My fruit, this is still wisdom's appeal, wisdom speaking, my fruit is better than gold, even pure gold. My yield better than choicest silver. I walk in the way of righteousness, in the midst of the paths of justice, to endow those who love me with wealth, that I may fill their treasuries. So there's wealth, there's treasuries, those things are found in wisdom. Notice it's not necessarily the treasures of the world, but these are the treasures of God. These are real treasures. The Lord possessed me. Now we've seen this idea already that wisdom was there at creation, but now this is wisdom speaking and saying the same thing. The Lord possessed me at the beginning of his way, before his works of old. From everlasting I was established, from the beginning, from the earliest times of the earth. When there were no depths, I was brought forth. When there was no springs abounding with water. Notice how he's taking us back to, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Before the mountains were settled, before the hills, I was brought forth. In other words, before God created, wisdom was there. In other words, God was using wisdom to create, and wisdom was there before God brought about heavens and earth. While he had not yet made the earth and the fields, nor the first dust of the world, this is walking us through Genesis chapters 1 and 2. When he established the heavens, I was there. When he inscribed a circle on the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when the springs of the deep became fixed, when he set for the sea its boundary so that the water would not transgress his command, when he marked out the foundations of the earth, then I was beside him. These are all things that were happening at creation as a master workman. Now, that's not saying that wisdom existed independently of God, but it was his chief tool. I was daily his delight, rejoicing always before him, rejoicing in the world, his earth, and having my delight in the sons of men. So wisdom is personified here in the very actions of creation. Notice wisdom is his delight. It's rejoicing in the world, having my delight. Do you see the chiastic pattern where you go point 1, 2, and then point 2, 1, delight, rejoicing, delight. Very poetic way that he's speaking, having his delight. And notice culminating in the creation of mankind, in the sons of men. Now, therefore, O sons, and remember, It's not my sons, so this isn't an entirely new section. But now, therefore, listen, sons, listen to me, for blessed are they who keep my ways. And so this is going to be the conclusion. Heed instruction and be wise and do not neglect it. So listen, keep my ways, heed, and of course, don't neglect. That's our conclusion. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my gates. Remember how we started, wisdom calls at the gates. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at my doorposts. So he listens, he's watching, he's waiting. For he who finds me finds life and obtains favor from the Lord. But he who sins against me, so you can either find wisdom and find life, or he who sins against me, that is, he might actually have heard wisdom, but he transgresses it, he ignores it. He who sins against me injures himself. All who hate me love death. What do you love? Do you love life, or do you love death? It sounds like a no-brainer. Choose wisdom. Now, in closing, Chapter 7, we already saw the adulteress calls in the streets, and notice what she was doing. She's in the streets, in the squares, at every street corner. She makes her appeal to the one who's simple, who lacks judgment. It's giving in to her cost one his life. That was how chapter 7 ended. Now in chapter 8, we've seen Lady Wisdom's appeal in the streets, but notice it followed the same general format. She stands in the heights, by the road, by the gates, at the entrances. She makes her appeal to the one who is simple, the one who's foolish. Notice the audience was the same. But in this case, whoever finds me, Lady Wisdom says, finds life.